Happy Monday, everybody, and welcome into the Gramlich and Mac Lane podcast presented by Ingles. Mac, we are very excited for today's episode, as we always are. Last week was a Florida State flavored week, and a lot of great responses. Loved it. We had Florida State retweeting everything, so we appreciate that. This week, a little more kind of back to some Clemson flavor because we have a big guest that we scored. Got to be honest, it's a big one.
That's right, Casey. Literally, physically, all the different things that you can think about. But Bryan Bresee joining us, defensive tackle, star for the Clemson Tigers there. And really just, it was so funny. I love to peel back the curtain a little bit. And we talked about this with Bryan. But he was just so busy, like site to site, visit to visit. We had planned a couple, then another visit popped up. We had to move it around. And then I think he got back at like 3 a.m. or something crazy. We had to push it again. And so we finally got him. And, man, it was such a great conversation just hearing about his Clemson experience, why he chose Clemson, the different things, the positions that he played, how versatile, he was throughout his career. And then a little insight on the combine and the late nights that he had there as well as some of these visits. He's actually knocked out, I think, KG, like 4 or 5 more since we have spoken.
Yeah,
so Bryan has been a little bit of a busy man. Can't wait to see where he ends up. This was a super fun deal. But KG, before we show our Ingles video, I do want you to tell the people about the sandwiches that you made because it got so much interaction on social media. People were passionate about their pimento cheese or egg salad.
Well, you gotta be, right? I mean, this is a Southern staple, especially Masters Week. And, I have had some cravings now and again as we are hitting the home stretch about like 4 weeks till baby boy is supposed to be here. And so I'm watching the Masters and I'm like, I need some pimento cheese. I need it now. I need it bad. So I thought, let's go to Ingles. Let's go figure this out. And, egg salad, of course, I am more of a pimento cheese person, but I do enjoy a good egg salad sandwich. And I feel like that's a very Masters thing, maybe even more than the pimento cheese because you could eat that whenever.
Sure.
So I go to my local Ingles. They're literally right next to each other. So easy. The pimento cheese was one shelf. The egg salad was the other shelf. And they had like every single type of pimento cheese you can imagine, all these other options. So I get that, and I bring it home, and I do like a taste test. And I got to be honest, I told Nick this, and he laughed at me. I thought I was just going to eat one. I ate both sandwiches. Now, look, I am pregnant, so cut me some slack. But I had to eat both because the egg salad surprised me. I mean, I like egg salad, but it was good.
That's right.
And so, yeah, we put out the question. If I had to choose, I'm more of a pimento cheese person.
Okay,
what about
there
you?
You go.
What about you?
I do not discriminate with food. Sometimes
sure.
I'll stack them on top. I'll mix them together, whatever it takes. But I probably am with you. I'll probably lean pimento cheese. But I will say, you inspired us. We went to Ingles, got the recipe. Kaki batched up her homemade recipe for some egg salad. And it was killer. It was killer. So there's no better way to enjoy Master Sunday than with some pimento cheese, some egg salad. But let's get into this interview, KG. We could talk about food and Masters all day long. Before we get to it, here's a message from our good friends over at Ingles.
At Ingles, we're proud to work with hundreds of local farms and businesses in the communities we call home. Not only does it ensure that you get top quality, fresh items for your family table, it's a way for us to support the amazing individuals who pour their heart and soul into delivering the very best they can do. Quality, freshness, community, it's all in the bag. Ingles, low prices, love the savings.
Bryan Bresee, man, welcome to the show. Man, you and I have been talking back and forth. You've been all over the world. You're training your tail off. You're doing all these visits. Thank you for joining us today, my man.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me.
Let's start with the Clemson Tigers because we're going to kind of do this journey and get to eventually modern day where you are right now. But I want to go all the way back, man, to how you made the decision, to pick Clemson. I know Georgia was coming after you hard. I'm sure everybody in the country was. But you decided to be a Tiger. What all went into that, and maybe why did you decide to pick the Clemson family?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, there's a lot that went into it. In high school, went and visited just about everywhere. I feel like during that my high school days, and just at the end of the day, just meeting with all the coaches at Clemson, and getting to be around some of the players, and seeing the culture that was at Clemson, and it's just where I thought I'd grow the most as a player and as a man. So I thought the people around me were the right people to make that happen.
Ryan, I remember when you were coming out of high school, you were number one overall recruit by some of the services, and the hype, the pressure, all that was there. You go to Clemson and you live up to that hype, and now you've got the NFL side. So being that number one recruit at 17 years old, how did that help prepare you for a moment like this where you're doing job interviews and you're dealing with the hype of being a first round pick potentially? How did that prepare you for this experience?
Yeah. I mean, I I would say not as much as a football side of things because once you get to college, it's a completely different game. You got it doesn't matter. Yeah, whatever went on in high school, you gotta adapt once you get to college. But um, I would say just being comfortable talking around people
Mm.
after being in high school, doing a lot of like interviews and stuff then, and yeah, just being comfortable talking in front of people. I would say was probably the biggest help for it because the football side of things, definitely didn't. It was a big
Yeah.
change once I got into college. So
I love you bring that up, man, because I remember one thing that you said, I guess this was 2 years ago now, kind of going from your freshman year to spring of your sophomore year, I guess spring of your freshman year, however you want to look at it. You said, I can play football physically. I have all these things, but now I'm learning how to play
Mhm.
football at this level. What did you mean in that? Can you dive into that a little bit?
yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of a loaded answer there with so many different things that changed for me once I got into college. Just understanding offenses, understanding backfield sets, just
Yeah.
stuff that slows down the game for you and helps you play faster. Learning a lot of technique
Hmm.
um, that had to change. In high school, I was just bigger and stronger and faster than most people, so that's kind of what I relied on. But once I got to college, it was a completely different game. So I had to really hone in on my technique and understand the game of football, learn how to study film. There's a
Yeah.
whole bunch of stuff that went into just slowing the game down for me.
And I guess what else? You said the film, but is it after hours stuff? Is it working with other guys? I mean, there's been so many great players at Clemson and great coaches. I mean, what was the process to know? Okay, you get to camp, you get into games, you're like, okay, this physicality thing is going to work, but I've got to pick it up too.
Yeah. I mean, definitely a lot of people. I would say the main guy that kind of helped me once right when I got into Clemson was Tyler
Mm.
Davis. He kind of brought me under his wing and helped me learn whenever I wanted to go watch film with them, whatever it was. He was up there helping me out all the time. So it was really really good to have Tyler there when I first came in, and then yeah, once they already had a solid group once I came in, some old veteran guys in the D line room and so they kind of just led the way for me and for all the younger guys, just showing us kind of just what you need to be successful. So if it was working out on Sunday, whenever it was going up, watching film after practice, whatever it was, they kind of led that way for us, and it just has continued since then.
Brian, when you look back at your Clemson career, there are obviously a lot of great moments to choose from. And I'm going to put you on the spot here at 9 a.m. when we're recording this interview. I know you had a late flight last night. Can you give me a favorite moment from your time at Clemson?
Oh, that's tough.
I know. I'm sorry.
Um, I mean, there's been a bunch of really good moments. Um, I would say for me, this last ACC championship this past year was definitely really special. Just how everything kind of came together at the end of the year there, and the team played so well together, and just winning championships are hard. So it was really special for that team that we had last year, and uh, to go out and do it.
Mm.
Yeah. You bring up Tyler Davis. You talk about that great moment. Um, there was some speculation. Tell me how real this was or not of you coming back. There were a lot of
Ooh.
people that were saying, "Man, this dude, we think he's coming back." Was that real at all? Was that just the media? Did you think about it, or was this kind of your plan? Hey, I'm gonna do the 3 years. I'm gonna go get this bag.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely wasn't 100% set in stone throughout this year. I had a lot going on this year, so wasn't 100% set on heading out after everything. But yeah, I was just kind of waiting until the end of the season, talking to Coach Sweeney, Coach McCorvey, figuring out what the next step would kind of look like for me, and just but wanted to finish out the season and kind of just see, where it put me at the end. And that's, I waited to the side until then.
Yeah. What was the biggest, I guess, factor? Was it just the information you got from the league? Was it just Coach Sweeney saying, hey, you can't miss this opportunity? What was for you, the biggest factor there?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a lot of stuff. I mean, talking to my family, talking to Coach Sweeney, how he, yeah, I mean, he was, he's always super supportive and was completely, fine either way. Obviously, if I were to come back, he would have been happy, but was happy for me if if and when I left. So there was just so many different factors that kind of went into it. But at the end of the day, I just, I felt really, really prepared for it and ready for the next level. And that's kind of what it came down to.
Speaking of that prep, Mac and I have been following the combine and all the things that have been going on, what people are writing about you, scouting reports, all these things. And one of the things people really like is your versatility because you played multiple positions on the D-line at Clemson. How much do you think that has helped you when you've gone on these top 30 visits and when you've met with teams at the combine? Is that something they bring up? Tell us more about that.
Yeah, I mean, it obviously is very helpful. There's a bunch of different defenses in the NFL and at Clemson. I was just talking to somebody the other day. It's like, when I go into these meetings and stuff and people are installing their defense, we ran so many different defenses that are like, to me, like they just call it something else, but it's the same thing that I had ran in Clemson. So that's definitely super helpful. And then playing up and down the line, it makes it easier for me if a team's running a 4-3, a 3-4, whatever it is. I'm able to kind of just fit in different spots than if I was just a one position kind of player. So they've seen me play all these different positions, and it's easier for them to plug me in those spots because they've seen it happen.
Yeah, and we know the NFL is rapidly changing at all times, using guys in different ways. And I mentioned these top 30 visits, which are visits that potential first-round guys go on, and you go and you kind of meet with the teams and everything. Obviously, don't tell us the teams. We're not here to break any crazy news. But, you talk about your recruiting process and how you went on all these visits everywhere. How is it different? How is it similar to go on these visits for a legitimate job interview where you're going to be paid a lot more money, in that regard? So what are those top 30 visits like?
Yeah, I would say they're somewhat similar to recruiting, but not like the flashy
right.
kind of stuff.
Not like pick us because we're picking you.
You're not doing any photo shoots. No photo shoots are involved.
No, not all the flash that goes on with it, but just kind of showing you around the facility, getting you to meet people. They just kind of take you around so that if you are to get drafted by their team, you're already kind of you've met these people. You're somewhat comfortable with the people there. So. I mean, it's they're kind of quick visits. It's you're there for maybe half the day and then you head out. So it's just a lot of meetings and just getting to know people.
Sure. And I know that's a lot of fun. Just something that probably you've dreamt about your whole life, and you're right here. I mean, it's so close to being and accomplishing your goal there. I do want to go back to the versatility piece for a second. That KG brought up because, as she mentioned, you played nose, you played 3 technique, you had to play defensive end in the bowl game. Where do you feel the most comfortable? Where do you feel the most dangerous that you can really use your skill set and get after the quarterback or stop the run?
Yeah, I mean, I think kind of home base for me at Clemson has been that 3 technique. So I'll say that's kind of where I'm the most comfortable, where I kind of understand the position the most.
Yeah. And is that just physical traits, like you feel comfortable with those guards and centers, or just because you did it the most, as you said?
Yeah, I don't know. I think obviously playing up and down the line, there's different techniques everywhere you play.
Right.
Pass rushing is completely different at a 5 than it is at a 3. So there's all these different factors that kind of go into it. And I think just because I'd rep the 3 technique so much and understand, the different things that come with it, like, pass rushing, things happen a lot quicker when you're in the interior, there's not. So, I mean, all that kind of stuff. I'm just more used to being in there and just comfortable there.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm going to let KG jump into the combine, but I want to talk pre-combine stuff because I think, what was interesting for a lot of people was just health, with the ACL, with shoulders, different things. I think a lot of people were eyeing that when you went into the combine. So how was your training? Like the bowl game ends and you're not doing football anymore. Like you're doing agility, speed, and you actually, the videos that I was seeing, you were doing a little bit more football stuff than most people just because of those drills that defensive linemen do. But how different was that? Have you ever experienced anything like that in your life where it's like, we're going to do 4 events that you'll never do ever again, get really good at them?
Yeah, I think by the end of it, I was done with it. We were, they were kind of holding out the guys that weren't going. Like some people were going to the Senior Bowl and that kind of things. But some of the younger guys who were out there who we were training with weren't like, they wouldn't let us do any football drills the first like month, and we were like, I can't get down in this like 40 stance again. Like it was brutal. So by the end of it, we were definitely ready to play football again. Yeah, a lot of it was. I had a great time. I was out in California training with. We were at this place called Proactive out there, and all the trainers were great. Everyone who we were with was all the players I was with. We had a great time. Built good relationships with everybody, so that made it fun. But I was definitely ready to get out of a 40 stance and get back to football.
Okay, well, we got to talk about the 40 though for a second, because Bryan, you're a big man, all right? You ran a 4.86, which is really, really impressive. So how, when you look at the 40, I know it's something you've probably been asked to do at different times, but of course you haven't trained for it like this. So is 4.86, was that your goal? Was that the range you wanted? How much did you have to train specifically in the whole sprinting situation to get that? Like, tell us more about how we got this 4.86.
Yeah, I mean, I think the 40 is, it's a lot of technique.
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff is kind of learning how to run track, it feels like. So, yeah, that was kind of my goal, to be in the mid to mid 4.8s. The 10-yard split was obviously important and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it had been my goal since I got into to be in the mid 4.8. So yeah, a lot of training into it though.
It's a big man moving. I was thinking 4.9 would be great. I saw that 4.8 pop up. I was like, oh my God, like this is nuts. So how about the rest of the combine? Kind of similar to these visits where you're doing just so many meetings. And I think what's so interesting, every kind of prospect that we've spoken to this point, everyone says that from an outsider's perspective, and maybe even your perspective when you were a younger player, is, all right, I show up to Indy, I do my drills, I go home. And that's not the case. Like, you're there like a week. I mean, how was the entire, kind of process for you?
Yeah. Late nights, early
because
morning.
I was going to say, KJ Henry told us that because of the Senior Bowl, he got a lot out of the way. He got to go to bed. You're rolling in like 1 a.m. after all these meetings you've had.
Yeah. So, obviously you're there for a week, so you still got to try to, squeeze in some time to train, work on some technique stuff, all that kind of stuff. But it's a lot of medical stuff. You're in the hospital for, I don't even know. It was like 6 or 7 hours. Like, you're just sitting there waiting for your MRI, like that kind of stuff. And then, a lot of meetings with a bunch of different teams, but that's late at night. So
sure,
it would go probably from like, for me, probably 8 p.m. to like 11 every night. And I was and then I'd try to go over to where our trainers had a little suite across the street, try to get some rehab in, like all that kind of stuff.
Wow.
It's just a lot, it's a lot to squeeze into the days, but you were training the last 2 months for it, so you try to prepare even during that time to do well. But yeah, KJ would be asleep with the lights off every night when I come. I'm trying to be quiet walking in. He's like, I was in bed at like 9:30 last night. I was like, nice.
Must be nice.
Yeah.
Must be nice. We talked with Josh Downs, former North Carolina wide receiver, and of course he was at the combine. And he said a team during one of the meetings asked him to make a putt, like on a green, and he missed it. And he said, I don't know what that means. Maybe it's a good sign that I don't play a lot of golf, so I'm focused on the field. Did a team ask you to do anything weird, or like ask you a weird question, anything like that?
No, not at the combine. On one of my visits, I played pig though against one of the coaches. So, and he couldn't miss. It was crazy. Could not miss a shot.
Hold on, we need play-by-play. We need full play-by-play.
Well, we walk in and there's like just a basketball hoop, like a one that would be in your front yard, like just in the middle of an auditorium. And we're in there. We walk in, and I asked if there were any rules. And he said no. And I said, okay. And then he said, only one dunk. So we're going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then finally, he didn't miss. He may have missed one or two shots the whole time. It was crazy. I couldn't believe it. So I have to go up. I start dunking and then he's just putting his hand up like, all right, pee. Like, so we were going back and forth though. But it was like I was playing against like Larry Bird out there. Like it was.
What was the game-winning shot? What did he beat you with? What was the game winner?
It was like all like logo shots.
Right.
Like he was deep, just pulling it. Like,
Brian,
Caitlin Clark out here, man.
Caitlin Clark, that's right. I've been there. On one of the media dinners that Dabo hosted at his house pre-COVID. He challenged me to horse, and I was wearing flip-flops and jeans. And he had on like tennis shoes, and he was ready to go.
Of course.
And we went back and forth. We played pig. We went back and forth for like 30 minutes. And he got me on some left-handed floater, like something ridiculous. But he knew if we kept shooting threes, he was going to lose. So I've been there. It's those professional horse people. It's like that's what they do. So I understand.
Yeah. Oh, Coach Sweeney, we played on some visits and stuff. I think I just saw a video pop back up. It was like me, EJ Williams, and DJ playing Coach Sweeney, Miguel Chavez, and somebody else, and 3-on-3, like while we were getting recruited. So, yeah.
Dabo loves to hoop. He loves to hoop.
He loves it.
Yeah, he loves that.
He's just a competitive dude. All right, well, let's get to where we are now. You just told us you're back in Clemson. Probably working out, staying healthy, all these different things. What is next outside of the visits? Do you have any plans for the draft yet? What's the deal?
You get to relax at all, Brian?
Yeah, a lot going on with visits and stuff. I'm planning on being home for the draft with my family in Maryland. But yeah, just kind of visits are set up for the next few weeks, and I'll have some time in between some of them to be back in Clemson, and so this is kind of home base right now. And yeah, just kind of trying to train, get ready for rookie minicamp, wherever that is, and be ready to go.
Brian, we all know, since you were that big time recruit and then your years at Clemson, it's been a journey, and there's been highs and lows for you and your family. And I know, when you were in high school and you're that highly rated, your goal is the NFL. I imagine your goal has been the NFL for a long time. What will it mean to you when you hear your name and you hear that a team has selected you and that dream comes true?
Yeah. Like you said, there's a video that my mom posted on Facebook when I declared for me in like first grade saying I wanted to play in the NFL. So for a school project. So yeah, it's been a lifelong goal of mine, dream of mine. And I'm sure it'll be an emotional moment when it does come true. And not only for me, but my family, how much they all have sacrificed and yeah, just always have my back through all of it, and yeah, I've never doubted anything that I've believed in. So it'll be a special moment.
No doubt. Well, last thing for you, man, we'll get you out of here. I like to ask this for everybody, just who's going to be moving on and going to this next level. Whatever franchise drafts you, whatever team picks you up, what are they getting from Bryan Bresee?
Yeah, I would say a big athletic human being who is very disruptive and likes to wreak havoc, but somebody who's going to come in and bust his butt to earn the respect of teammates and coaches around, and coming in and do anything I can to play. So just going to come in and be ready to work.
There you go. Easy enough, man. We appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks again to our guy, Bryan Bresee, for joining us here on the program. If we hadn't recorded this episode kind of like a week and a half ago, I would have asked Brian if he's a pimento cheese or egg salad guy. And I don't know, from the vibe with Brian, I feel like he'd probably say both. He might be like you, Mac, just throwing both on a slice of bread. That's crazy, but
he's from kind of the northern area there.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's interesting.
He might not
I bet
understand.
I bet he'd go with the egg salad. I bet he could excel.
Interesting.
Fascinating.
Well, it's going to be fascinating to see. You ready for this transition? It's going to be fascinating to see where these teams go when it comes to Bryan Bresee, because obviously this guy's a first round talent, a first round prospect. At one point, a couple of years back, people were having him as the number 1 overall pick in the draft, etc. Sure. We know about the injuries and different things, but he tested really well. We talked about that with him, tested really well at the combine and at pro day. I've seen different things. You said it best, Mac. You said, don't overthink it, right? Don't overthink it. This guy's a first round pick. Weirdly, the parallel that comes up in my mind could be, and I know it's a different position, so I'm not talking positions here, but a guy like T. Higgins, where I feel like people overthought it.
Yep.
And he went either first or second pick of the second round. And now he's, a superstar in the league. Yeah. So for some reason, I feel like people are going to overthink it, and I don't know why, Mac.
Yeah, I just, man, I've got to think that because he tested so well, that will ease some of that, because he's just a massive dude, 6'6", 300 pounds, running a 4.8. Like, come on, what are we doing? He can play any position on the defensive line. The production, when available, was freaky, but I think what the hang-up could be was limited snaps.
Yeah.
Injury bug. Is it sustainable? All these different things. Because it's a big investment, right? You're hoping to get at least, 5 years out of a guy when you're drafting a first rounder. That's kind of the minimum contract there that you get out of a young man. So I think that will be the only thing that maybe there's a risk, which there's always a risk, right? This is a dangerous sport that these guys are playing. Injuries can happen literally at any given point. But KG, when I see his athleticism, when I see his versatility, those two things to me is what makes him so attractive. He's not just a two-gap player. He's not just a pass rusher. He is the total package. And I think his best football is still ahead of him, which is a great thing. He's not this final form piece. I think he's this big mold of clay that you can kind of bang out to whatever you want. If you want him to be, more of a 3 technique, if you want him to put on some weight and be a big guy in the middle, if you want him to be a defensive end in certain packages, all of that is in play. Mm-hmm. Then you look at his character, you look at the leadership abilities, no red flags there at all. If anything, green flags. You want that guy in your locker room, the things that he can do. He's a football player. He's a bully on the field. He likes to hurt people within the game. Like, that's what I want in a defensive tackle. And when you look at his family and where he gets strength from, and just his baby sister. I mean, I see that stuff all the time that his family posts of thinking about her, and I know he uses that fuel each and every day. It's a home run to me. I mean, I think it's crazy if he gets out of the top 15. But surely,
agreed.
I don't see him getting out of the first round, KG. I really don't.
And if he does, people be crazy. I mean, that's the only logical explanation there. But it was really fun to cover Bryan's Clemson career. And I remember specifically, I was at the ladies' clinic last year when his sister was there, and Bryan kind of walking her out for the fashion show. And you could just see how tight-knit that family is. It's a family you want to root for. And it's a player you want to root for. So very excited to see where Bryan Bresee ends up in this.
That's right.
Draft.
Any guesses? Any guesses on a team, or maybe the things you've seen that fit makes sense?
Man, I mean, the one that I saw the other day, which was the beginning of the second round, was very baffling. I think it was the Steelers, maybe. I'm trying to remember who it was. But you're right. I think the versatility, and honestly, just some of the question marks about some of the other D tackles in this class. I'm not going to name names, but I think we all know what I'm talking about. He's a guy that you just don't have red flags with. And also you have the Clemson pedigree and the D-line pedigree. So I'm a little more skeptical just because of how things go, that it's top 15, Mac, but he should not get out of the first round. He just flat out shouldn't.
Yeah, and I'm looking up some stuff over here trying to figure out what picks are real or not. I see a couple of different things. I think the Lions have 2 picks in the first round. If that's the case, if they can get him at 18, that would be an absolute steal. I feel like he fits them. He fits Dan Campbell, kind of a hard-nosed, rough dude that, loves physicality. And you think of that defensive line, if they added a piece like that with Aiden Hutchinson, a couple other young guys, and now you add Bryan Bresee, look out. I mean, that could be one of the better defensive lines immediately. So that's a pick I could see. I don't know if he will go 6. I think it's certainly warranted. But if they could get him somehow at 18, man, I think that would be a home run for him and for Detroit. So it'd be fascinating to see, like you said, where do all these guys, but specifically a guy like Bryan Bresee, who is so highly touted, as you mentioned earlier, mentioned as, the top guy for 2 years. Yeah. And now we know how things move and change and all that. Where's he going to end up? And
we'll get into more of that speculation in a couple weeks before the draft. We're going to have ESPN draft analyst Jordan Reed on.
Our boy.
And he can give us all that insight of what he's hearing and all, we know that Bresee's been on quite a few top 30 visits and all that, but I'm excited to hear from Jay Reed in the coming weeks. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that.
That's right. It's going to be so much fun. We'll have a couple more spring episodes. We're going to have a couple of more prospects join us, and then it'll be NFL draft time. Cannot wait for that. And then after that, guys, it's summer guest tour. Let's go. Ooh. We're rolling through this thing.
We've already got some big ones lined up. Let's just put it that way.
That's right. You guys are going to love it. It's going to be another fun summer. We're going to have an appearance of a baby boy. We're going to do a baby episode. Maybe not quite yet, but soon enough we will do that.
Soon enough. Amelia can lead the way.
That's right. When they both can babble, at least, we will do that. So we maybe have a year or so before that happens. But can't wait, guys. Thanks for joining us. Another great episode of Graham Look at Mac Lane, presented by our friends over at Ingles. Always appreciate their support and help throughout this podcast. If you guys haven't already, I don't know what you're doing. If you're not watching us on YouTube, come on over. We have a good time on here, a fun party. Join us over here. Go to our channel, subscribe, leave some comments. Super fun to interact and see you guys there in the comments. And then the OGs over on Apple Podcasts. Rate, review, subscribe. Continue to follow you guys over there as well. We would greatly appreciate that. But until next time, we'll see y'all.